and welcome to Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. I am Prema Nagatan, Security Officer at Enterprise Bank, and joining me is my co-host, Ken LaValle, Security Specialist at Enterprise Bank. It's a new year. We are in 2018. I hope everybody that's watching the show is having a great year so far. And to help you have a great year and continue to have a good year, we are here today to discuss more about various topics of security-related matters to help you save your monies, your information, which has been our primary goal on these shows. So hopefully you've been watching our previous shows. They are available on YouTube through the Lowell Telecommunications channel and through Enterprise Bank. So we definitely encourage you to continue to watch those shows, and hopefully today we can bring you more information, and we have a great guest today. I'm very pleased to introduce David Cullen. David, you have been working in the security industry for a very long time, 31-something years. You've been a great advisor to us at Enterprise Bank to help us kind of stay ahead of the fraud world, security world. There's constant risks and challenges that we have to face. So you've been very valuable to us in giving us some of the good recommendations. So thank you for that.
It's been a great partnership.
Thank you. David, you've had your own company, Intelligence Security International. And thank you for coming in today. I think we have some great topics that we've lined up to talk, and welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Ken, today we want to focus on social media. I think, no matter what your age, whether you're a student, a middle-aged, or even if you're a retired individual, social media has become a big way of communicating, staying in touch with family and friends and colleagues. There's social media websites for career purposes. So Dave, we want to focus today on social media. What our community members need to know, because it's become such a common way. You're every day people are on their phones, various social medias, and I'm sure there's risk associated with some of the things, and I think we need to talk about that. What do you think, Dave, just as an opening, what are some of the key things that we need to know today?
Well, again, thank you for having me. And the tools that we use today are very helpful to all of us. They allow us to make our days better, faster, more efficient. The technology is wonderful, but with any of those things comes risk. And the balance is, how do we balance that risk without exposing ourselves personally, financially, to any of the things that may be going on behind the scenes. There's always the folks out there that want to do us harm or take advantage of a situation. And that's really where the balance comes in. It's trying to understand how to use this technology for the right things while avoiding exposing ourselves to the bad things.
Right. So Ken, recently you mentioned a scenario with social media and things like that. Do you want to talk about that?
It's funny, Dave. First of all, let me say thank you and welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here. Dave and I are both graduates of the Northeastern University College of Criminal Justice. Although we didn't know each other in our college days, because Dave is much younger than I am, it's great to have him on the show. But I think I want to just focus on really what I think is very problematic for people is emotion. And sometimes when you're dealing with emotion, things that upset you, things that you're concerned about, be it in your family or whatever the case may be, you're more vulnerable to these types of intrusions, these types of attempts at stealing your money. And we've talked about the grandparent scam, who preys on the elderly person who thinks their grandkids in trouble, or whatever the case may be. And today we were talking about just an interesting point about purchasing a dog. And actually going to, let's say, a website or something you might see as a potential, you lost your dog, you're distraught, you want to buy a new dog to replace the one you once had, and then people fall prey to a potential scam. And tell me about that scam, if you don't mind.
Well, there's no shortage of scams out there.
Right.
And to be able to hide behind the internet and sit at home and try and lure people in, to your point, Chief, of how people do that is very easy. Doesn't cost anything. They can sit at home in their pajamas and they can put these scams out there. And one of the more recent ones we've seen in the news is around dogs. People put out that they're a potential breeder or that they have dogs for sale. And you start a contact with those individuals, and unfortunately what happens is they'll ask for money. And a lot of times they'll say, we need X percentage up front, or in some instances, as we've seen in the news recently, is you have to pay in full up front. And a lot of folks believe that because it's on the internet or it's there, it's valid. Because you can make a website for $10 and make it look real. But what they don't do is the due diligence that you and I talked about, which is kind of looking back at, does this business even exist? Is this person registered? And we always advise never pay anybody in full for anything. That's as simple as having work done at your house. If someone comes to your house and is going to repair your chimney or do other work, there's no need to pay anybody in full. You should wait and make sure that you've seen the product before you do that. But to your point, Chief, it's very easy to lure people in. And we live in what I discuss with my kids a lot is this instantaneous world. Someone asks something and we have this feeling that we have to answer them right away or do what they say. And we encourage our clients, it's okay to say no politely and say, I'm not sure. I'd need a little bit more information. I need to understand why you would need that much up front. What can you show me about your business? Where are you registered as it relates to the dogs? What kind of dogs have you bred, et cetera, et cetera. But we kind of get lulled into that social media aspect where if it's out there, we kind of believe it's real. Even though you can't touch it, it seems real.
So doing the research, and sometimes they might use the name of a true business that might be in town, but making sure you call or email or maybe even visiting the location to make sure it's in fact in business and a legal business.
There's a lot of ways that you can check, right? You can look online to see if the business registered. The Better Business Bureau, you can look and see if there's a business listing for that through the state of Massachusetts and the business listings. We provide that to our client base when people ask to show that we're a legitimate business. But there's a lot of folks out there that, again, will believe it just because they see it and because somebody told them it was true.
Absolutely.
So as an individual, we'll use social media on like the career side of things, and I know there's a personal aspect to it too. If I'm an individual that's looking for jobs, and normally I think of LinkedIn as one of the many other websites, that social media sites that are out there. What should I keep in mind before I put my information out there? Are there things that I need to be aware of?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you should always know where you're putting your personal information and what you and who you give it to. I'm always skeptical of anybody that asks me for that information. What's the last four of your social security? You go to a local store nowadays and you go through the cash register and they've trained some of the younger staff very astutely to say, I need your cell phone number. Well, I just bought a pair of gym socks. Why do you need my cell phone number to do that? It's a collection, right? They're trying to collect that information. So before I put information out there on LinkedIn or any other site like that, I'm always cognizant of who's going to see it, where is it going, and more importantly, when you're on those websites, if you're not sure, when you look up at what they call the address bar at the very top, you want to see if that secure link is there. It looks like a lock. It'll tell you that it's there. And instead of saying HTTP, it would say HTTPS. So make sure that it has that S for secure. It doesn't mean it's 100% absolute, but it's certainly a step in the right direction to make sure that you're on a legitimate site that takes prevention of security methods seriously.
And then, whether it's on the personal social media sites or career-based ones, you get a lot of requests from whether it's recruiters or other individuals. I know I'm always wary about not necessarily connecting with somebody that might be outside of my normal scope. Does that make sense, Dave?
It does. It kind of goes back to, I forget the name of the movie, but You've Got Mail. People get very excited when they get new emails. And we have this uncanny ability to want to click on it instantly. If you're not sure who it came from, don't open it. It's okay to delete something. If I received an email from you, Prima, that seemed out of the norm, I'm not going to click on anything that's within that email. And before I do anything with it, I'm going to pick up the phone, which doesn't happen a lot anymore. We have a tendency not to call somebody, as you and I were just discussing earlier, Chief. I would pick up the phone and say, good morning, Prima. I seem to have received an email that seems a little bit out of the norm for you. Did you send this to me with kind of a strange link? And you see that all the time now. You see the emails that come out and say, it would say it's coming from Ken, and it would have a link in it, and it would say, hey, look at this, click on it. Never never click on that. And if
Yeah.
you're not sure, just let it sit. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Call the person, find out if it's real, and if
Right.
it's not, delete it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the personal side of things, whether it's Snapchat or Facebook, and then there's so many more. I just happen to use these two as an instance. I know there's sometimes they'll post surveys. Take a little. It's supposed to be for fun.
Right.
Maybe we want to know your colors, and I know there's different forms that come through. I'm always concerned. Should I be?
I do.
Yeah.
I am, I should say. I don't click on them either.
Yeah.
It's a collections database. Those are paid advertisements from companies that are collecting information and trying to understand your preferences and things that you do. Are they always deceitful in the sense that it's a bad person out there collecting private information? No, but they're collecting information. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Similar, as we discussed, when you go into a grocery store, they structure those stores purposely in the manner they do because from the minute you walk in, those cameras are tracking your movements, not necessarily from a security standpoint, but from a buying standpoint. There's a reason they funnel you in a certain direction because they know those are the places that people have a tendency to go.
Yeah.
What they call those end caps with those nice displays and the things that you might grab to buy and or eat that you wouldn't normally do that because the data shows this is the migration path that people take through those stores.
No, that's a good point. Recently, Chelmsford Police Department had shared a post that talked about those surveys specifically to say, maybe there's a survey about your favorite color and your favorite food, or maybe your dog or your first teacher, which, if you think about it, a lot of times
Link to passwords.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
Correct.
any suggestions on passwords when you're creating passwords for the numerous things that we have?
It's hard because I looked the other day at some of the systems that I have passwords to, and it's amazing how many systems that we have passwords for. And I use a password keeper to secure that's encrypted because it's hard to remember them all.
Yeah, right.
And you don't want to use the same password for everything.
Correct.
We do have a tendency to pick simple passwords. People's names, birth dates, dogs' names, our street address, those things, which are always easily breachable by someone that wants to do that. So as far as passwords go, create something outside the box, something that no one else is going to know. And a lot of these websites today give you a website password option that is something you'd probably never think of as a good starting point. Gets you out of your comfort zone and gets you away from using, the dog's name or a birth date.
Sure.
Yeah. I know we have to go on a quick break in about a few seconds, but any closing remarks on the social media side of things, and then we'll shift into a little bit of a different topic when we come back.
Social media is a wonderful thing. We like to use it for a lot of different things. It's a great way to stay in touch with friends and family. Just be very cognizant what you put out there and how much data you share with the world, because once it's out there, it's out there.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Very
great
true.
advice. Yeah.
Well,
So,
we'll be back in a few minutes. Take care.
Thank you.
This program is proudly sponsored by Enterprise Bank, a full-service commercial institution serving 17 communities. Enterprise Bank helps create successful businesses, meaningful jobs, strong, vibrant communities, and opportunities and prosperity for our customers, shareholders, and employees. To speak to an Enterprise advisor, call 978-459-9000 or visit our website, enterprisebanking.com. Enterprise, an independent bank with community at its core. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Ken LaValle. Welcome back to Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. I'm with my co-host Prima Nagathan of Enterprise Bank and our special guest Dave Cullen of ISI. So while we were just on the break, Dave, we were talking about smart devices, smartphones, iPads, laptops. Tell me about the security breaches that could occur with your phone or your laptop or your iPad, how to prevent those from taking place, and what you see coming forward that will be a concern for us with those devices.
Sure. Similar to where we just finished off, passwords are always key. Have a password on those devices. They all offer a number of different tools now. Some use fingerprints, some use other methods to protect it that you can add. But at a minimum, have a good password on there, something that's not just 0000 or something else. That's the first thing. Because if you lose that device, it has a lot of data and information stored on these things, and it does allow someone into kind of your world, if you will. As we get into the devices themselves, where we still see a ton of issues and concerns and breaches is around things like open Wi-Fi. We go into a lot of coffee shops and we want to sit down and do that. Many organizations, like an enterprise bank, would not allow individuals to use open Wi-Fi, and they have restrictions. But a lot of folks use their common email and their other things, and now you're sitting in an open area. And that's where a lot of folks have a tendency to grab personal data. They have mining tools that go out there that watch for this, and they're sitting there having a coffee just like you. But every person that logs onto that network and starts to log into their bank and putting in their credentials or their emails, they do that. So what we have to remember is that while these tools are extremely convenient, we sometimes forget how convenient they are for the bad guy to grab that data and have access to them as well.
So having passwords, especially, college students, Lowell has a lot of college students in the area, and you're putting all your information in there, so you don't want to leave your, if you forget your device somewhere and it's not password protected, I can only imagine how difficult that would be to get the information back once it's compromised.
Well, it is. If you think about if you lost your credit card, how many phone calls you have to make to do that. If you've left your laptop out and there's no password protected on it, if there's no backups of that information, your world's exposed. That information is exposed. So the password is just kind of the first step. The good practices becomes the second step, not logging into common Wi-Fis in open areas without kind of understanding where you're at and what kind of passwords you're going to use, as well as the apps that you use and what you use them for. A lot of those apps do track our activities and they do monitor what we're on, and it's not by accident that when you pull up some of the common websites that you'll see the last 3 things you looked at on Amazon on the right-hand side, or some of those other organizations, and I'm not picking on Amazon or anybody, but you see that data is there. That's not by accident. It's not just, hey, how did they know that I looked at a lawnmower the other day? That's all capturing that data as we go. So you can imagine how passwords are easily taken and how access is easily had.
Now, I know you talked about the various apps that are available on the phone. Any guidance on what type of app is okay for me to download on my smart device?
Any app is fine as long as you understand what it is. Apple, Google Play, all of those places do a good job in putting those out there. Is anything 100%? It's not. But the bigger names are obviously much more secure and okay to use. I'd be a little leery of something if you're not well aware of what it's going to do, what it's doing behind the scenes. You'll see when you download a new app, a lot of times it'll say, can we use your current location? Can we send you notifications? I always say no. Just like if I go to a store and someone asks me for my personal information, my first answer is always no. Unless you can justify to me why you need that, my polite answer is no.
And it's just a quick button that you swipe over just to turn off that notification, because I have them on my Google Maps and things like that. I turn it off because I don't need anybody tracking where I am all the time.
Correct.
I'll turn it on when
settings,
I need to.
In all the phones is location settings, and we talked before the show about some of the scams that have gone on and people getting called saying, hey, I know where you are. If your location setting is on and you're on Facebook or you're on any of these other things, it's pretty easy to understand where that person may or may not be.
Sure.
So I have
question. I just asked this question, if you don't mind. Oftentimes when I'm on my phone and I'm on Google and I'm reading a local newspaper or something along those lines, I get basically an advertisement that says, congratulations, you've won. You've won a $1,000 gift card from Samsung. Are those legit, or are those things that, I literally just shut my phone off and wait a while and then go back on, because I don't know what's happening with that stuff.
Rarely are they legitimate.
Rarely are they legitimate.
And to your point, it's tracking kind of where you are and the things that you might be looking at, right? It's looking at the Google page you might be on, or the things that you've researched, and it's trying to map into that. But they're programs and they're collecting data. I too never click on those. I think it goes back a few minutes ago to our email discussion. If you get that email and there's a link in there, I don't click on that link unless I know absolutely 100% you sent it to me and that it's legitimate. It doesn't take but 2 or 3 minutes to call you. But we get excited. We see it and we want to click on it. We want to open that app, and people see a free airline ticket. Or you're entered into a new lottery. Nothing is given away for free.
It's never, even if it's
It's too good to be true if it's
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
And we say that all the time, and I think it's so true.
Yeah.
But
So
it's exciting to see it.
Yeah.
And when you think
want
it's you,
something.
people have a tendency to click
I
on
know,
it.
I
Yeah.
know.
I have a friend who refuses to update her phone device because she believes that it might slow down her phone or it might start to drain her battery. And I'm a little bit concerned with her not doing that. Should I be?
Security patches are put in place for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not always convenient. A lot of times they're inconvenient.
Yeah.
It does take time, but there's a reason. And when you get that notification that there's a security patch out there, before you click on it, read what that security patch
Yeah.
fixes. At some point, you're forced to.
Yeah.
Because if you do not update and keep up to date, your software will stop running and those devices will stop working.
Right.
So you do have a window. You don't have to do it day one.
Yeah.
But it does explain to you why an Apple or a Microsoft or a Google is sending out an update as to why it is there and what it might be
Right.
for. So it's always good to read it.
Yeah.
But at some point, you really want to make sure that it's done. I think
Yeah.
Apple came out with one last week that all the iPhones were exposed. That's an important
Right.
fix to put in place.
I see.
Dave, do you know of resources for an individual who might be new to the smart device? You know, people are slowly upgrading from the flip phones to that. And if they're not completely sure, you know, what are some of the guidelines? Are there any resources that you could think of that they might be able to
A lot of the
refer
phone
to?
providers, believe it or not, will do that. The Verizons, the AT&Ts will show you how to walk through and set that up. And most of them, if you buy a device from them, will actually walk you right through it.
Yeah.
And they're very good at giving you kind of the pros and cons of some things. So don't be afraid to ask them. You're paying the money to buy the phone from them. You're
Yeah.
putting that device on their plan. They're very good at doing that. Other than that, you can look online and get some general guidance as to things that you just mentioned about maybe toggling something on or off, whether it's location settings or an app setting. Those are very helpful as well. But the folks that sell those phones and the devices are very good at helping you kind of understand the basics.
And just like it comes to, you know, being mindful of what is out there on social media, the same thing I think really comes down to how much you want to use your smartphone for. Especially if you're doing, you know, banking on your device, I think they should also look at some of the other apps that they might have that could cause some of that compromising. So
It can, and you know, that's the age we're in.
Yeah.
You know, it's very convenient to be able to deposit a check from my phone. Not that I don't miss seeing my friends at the branches, but I travel a lot for work. And if I can deposit a check remotely in my secure Wi-Fi that I'm in at my home, it's a time saver for me.
Right.
So we're going to continue to see that. It's not going to lessen. It's going to increase.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just have to be cognizant of where you are. What are you logged into? Have you taken the precautionary steps that are there?
right.
Are you on a secure network versus a public network?
Yeah.
I think you just have to kind of remember that as convenient as those devices are, they do come with risk.
Yeah.
And we just need to pay attention to
Yeah.
some of those things and not get lulled into the sense of
Right.
it's a great tool.
And amazingly, as much as we do personally to protect our personal information, large companies that we do business with are often not as concerned as we are. And we see data breaches constantly in the news taking place.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is it's frustrating to go through all of this, to do the best we can to protect our own personal information, and then have other companies that don't seem to be as concerned as we are.
It's true. And you know, it's very simple to run a data check on yourself, right? A credit check. There's many organizations that offer it for free. Most are free. You know, banking organizations for clients sometimes offer that. It's good to run a credit check. The other thing we encourage clients to do is at least once a year, if not twice a year, is to go out and Google yourself
Interesting.
and see what
Yeah.
information is out there about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised that some things pop up out there that you didn't know about.
Wow.
You talked about social media sites. People connect you through social media sites and
Right.
things that you may not have known that you were connected to. You and I are connected you're not connected to Ken, but Ken's connected to me. And somehow your information is now out there because it got transferred around or posted. So it's great to go out and Google yourself once or twice a year and make sure that what's there is accurate and take a look at those things. But certainly a credit check and kind of understanding what exposure you have is a good thing to do.
So I think, overall the base is to really protecting your information. So one of the things as bankers, I know we always like to stress is safeguard your information. As a security consultant, what are your thoughts on safeguarding it? One is what type of information they should safeguard and how?
Your personal information is your personal information, and it shouldn't be given out unless you're required to give it out. Growing up, being at the age I'm at, we protected our social security numbers. Today it seems a little bit different. A lot more information is out there. You think about groups that are easily exposed. Juniors becoming seniors in high schools. They're putting their personal information on every application for colleges you can imagine, and it seems to go out. Some of the elderly that aren't as sophisticated with the computers and some of the smart apps and some of the other things have a tendency to give that information away over the phone. It's your information, protect it. It's okay to say no.
Sure.
Don't just give it to somebody. And at a minimum, do some due diligence like we talked about. If you're not sure, as we tell clients all the time, pause. Don't spend the money, don't give the information away, stop, ask some questions, and just kind of think it through to make sure it's real.
Good point.
And as security professionals at the bank, we always, want our customers to know that if there's a check that you're depositing into your account, we don't necessarily check every check that goes through your account. So if you come to us and say, I got this as part of a lottery winning, and if you truly did win that lottery, we'll make sure that you get that money and we'll work with you. But having that information that there might be some concerns, we can do some research, we can call the other bank it's drawn on. A lot of times, unfortunately, we see that lottery was not really a true winning, and the customer ends up sending some money, which they end up losing that money, or the account's overdrawn. So talking to your bankers, confide in us and tell us even if it's a letter it came with, or an email, so we can at least try to do some research before the harm is done, before your information is compromised or you've lost the money.
We use the term in our business is that we tell people to stay in their own lane. You're an expert in banking. I'm not. So I'm going to rely on you and talk to my partners there. Ken was a former chief of police. I was never a law enforcement person, so I'm not about to pretend to be one. I'm going to rely on them to give me the expertise I need to know. And your banking partners are very important in what's going on today. There's more scams than not. So you have to understand that people are going to try and draw that information and draw your personal information, and if they can get their hands on it, they will.
It's great advice.
Dave, thank you so much. I know we could really talk more and more about this. We would love to maybe have you back on the show in the near future and talk about other aspects of fraud that's out there. But I thought this was a great discussion today.
Absolutely.
Well, sadly, I wasn't the one that won the Mega Millions for $500 million last night, so I'm still around.
And so are we.
But thank you for your time.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you coming in today and helping our community members become a little bit more aware about social media and their smart devices.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, folks, for tuning in to another episode of Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.